William is a general partner at SOSV. This is an accelerator venture capital investor with USD 700 million under management. He's the MD of China Accelerator, SOSV's global internet accelerator, and the first of its kind to launch in Asia, as well as mobile only accelerator, a 160 million users large platform. According to TechCrunch Crunchbase, SOSV is the number one most active seed investor in the world. William himself was an active and angel investor with 39 investments from 2004 to 2014. He has an extensive knowledge of investments in the technology space. In 2005, he was ranked the number one stock picker in technology, media, and telecom by Thomson Reuters. And specific to his work in the Indian market, Bao has been one of the international investors to invest in India's internet companies and has worked with some of the India's early internet successes such as Rediff, On Mobile, and Naukri. Later, he switched over to venture capital and as a partner with SoftBank, China and India Holdings, where he focused on early stage investments in technology, media, and telecom companies in Asia through the primary focus market, though the primary focus market was China. His previous work experience extends to companies like Deutsche, Bank of America, and Bear Stearns. So in today's session, we are planning to have a fireside chat where Archana will be chatting up with William. To give you a quick background about Archana, so Archana is a member at Ficky Flow, and she is the founding partner at Vertices Partner. She specializes in corporate commercial law, venture capital, and private equity investments. She also has expertise in M&As, joint ventures, strategic acquisitions across multiple sectors. She has been featured in the Asia Legal Business 40 Under 40 list in the APAC region and the 40 Under 40 Rising Star by Legal Era. She also got featured by one of the leading business publications in the top 10 powerful women lawyers of the country. She also sits on the advisory board of several startups and new age entrepreneurial ventures. And she's an active member of Ficky Flow, ICC, and also WICCI. And at Ficky Flow, she has been spearheading the startup Caravan. And this is to engage the new and aspiring entrepreneurs at the grassroots level. Over to you, Archana.
Thank you so much, Upasana, for the introduction. And thank you very much, William, for taking out the time to come and interact with all of us today. It is an absolute pleasure to have you here. I think it's late for you, right? We are taking away your Saturday evening, but I'm really hoping this chat interesting. And therefore, hopefully, there'll be nothing for you to come at the end of this. William, to just tell you a little background about the participants are mainly between students who are aspiring to be entrepreneurs. So students from Pan India, who are really interested in entrepreneurship and who are doing a lot of sessions on these, and they really want to understand. Some of them have great ideas as well. The other bunch of people we have is entrepreneurs who are at different stages of their businesses, some who are already funded but are looking at scaling and therefore are seeking avenues for the same, some who are looking at funding or strategic alliances. So, hearing your perspective and your journey, William, would be very insightful for all. I would really request the participants to post their questions on the chat box, and we will either take them up during the session if they are appropriate conversation we are having, or we can also take it up after we have finished talking. We may also request you to unmute yourself and ask the question. So, William, let me start by asking you. Given the fact that you are a prolific global investor, you have watched the Indian market from very close quarters. And in fact, you've been one of the first international investors to invest in India's internet companies. In addition to that, you have also seen various cycles of journeys in a company's lifespan, from creation to investments to exit. So, as an investor, what are those key parameters that attract you to a potential portfolio? And what has been your and SOSV's behind the investments that you make, William?
Sure. Thanks, Archana. Thanks for having me here, and thanks to Flo. Really happy to share today. It's not that late. It's just it's about 6:30. I haven't had my dinner yet, so it's nuts. So it should be good. So I've been doing tech investment now 25 years. and it's been a long ride. I actually started off in Asia, then back to the US for 5 years, and then I came back to Asia in 2002, and sort of saw the rise of the tech market, first with China and Southeast Asia, and then starting in 2005 with India. Back then, I don't think there were really that many VCs in India. There were startups, but there weren't that many VCs. And you might not know it today, but back in 2005, people used to really look down on entrepreneurs. Why would you turn away a job managing 100 or 1,000 people at a Tata or an Infosys, when and give all that up with a big team underneath you and a fat salary, and have just a small team and no salary doing a startup. So when I first came to India, we met Deep at Make My Trip, or Sanjeev at Naukri, and the guys at Homegama, Niraj, and they were like rock stars. They were so far from it that actually they're most of them were guys. Their wives used to get shit for being married to an entrepreneur. So I think we've come a long way in India, and it's great. So for what we're looking for is, this is not rocket science, but we're looking for people who are passionate about solving a particular problem, or you could think about it in terms of an opportunity, going after a particular opportunity. So when you're doing startups, you're not going to like take over the entire world right away. Think about it like a step-by-step function. Okay, you solve a problem, and then once you're in, you can actually widen out and solve more and more problems. But you're not going to solve all the world's problems or all of your customers' problems from day one. It's a step-by-step function. So for the first thing is, is there a problem there that based on our understanding of the industry, or based on the what the entrepreneur can tell us about the industry, that needs solving. And then the second thing is the team, and it's always a team. Usually not one single person can do tech, can do product, can also do sales and marketing and fundraising. Is the team the right one to tackle this problem, or this challenge, or this opportunity? So the second one is team. I think people oftentimes focus on the team. And then the one thing that people don't always talk about that much is timing. So one of the challenges is there's lots of big problems out there, but is it actually the time now to solve them? Is the market timing right? We're early stage investors. We're 10 years plus 3 years, so we have a 13-year outlook. But you can still, it took 12 years for Facebook to go from angel investment all the way to exit. So the timing, sometimes it can be just not the right time. And so for us, there is an aspect of timing there.
Sure. And what we've seen is that even during the pandemic, you continue investing, and in fact, recently closed transactions as well. So what keeps you motivated to do so, and what are the most important elements for you as an investor in a transaction towards closure?
Yeah. So the thing that most people don't really understand about VCs is VCs are a lot like sheep. They're not very bright. They travel together in groups, and they don't really have like a leader, but they just sort of go around in a group. And when they get to a nice place with nice green grass, they basically eat the grass down to nothing. All that is left is a brown patch. Okay, so when you want to be, especially for us on the early stage side, you want to be earlier. You want to be, but you're not too early. The whole timing thing. So you want to be ahead of the herd, okay? And you want to get to the grass a little bit before the herd. Take the good stuff, and when the herd comes, you've already kind of moved on to the next thing. So the thing about economic cycles is that the investors sort of are very much like a herd. So when things are hot, when things are exciting, when things are going really well, they invest a lot. Okay. And when things are shit, like right now, things are not going particularly well. The economy is heading into a downturn. when the U.S. gets a cold, the global economy, what's it say? So when the U.S. sneezes, the global economy gets a cold. Well, the U.S. has freaking COVID right now, so the global economy is probably screwed. And so we're heading into a very, very tough time. We have now 40 investments in India over the last 2.5, 3 years. And so we have a pretty good sense of what's going on the ground. And it's not looking that great, but the best time to actually invest in companies is during a downturn. Because 3 reasons. One is that if you can survive through the downturn, then you're coming out into the hot period positioned very well. You're ahead of the pack. You've already been through that very tough period. You're battle hardened. You've gotten the crap kicked out of you for 1, 2, 3 years, and you're coming out into the to the hot period like ahead of everybody else starting. Okay, the second thing is that when things are hot, VCs are spreading money all over the place, right? So in bad times, good companies get funded. In good times, everybody gets funded. And the problem with people like CTOs is they're very bad at choosing which company to join, right? So as long as you can pay them a salary and it sounds okay, and a lot of times it's like, yeah, it looks interesting. Okay, you're funded. I get, or your product person is like, yeah, this is something I'm really passionate about. But the business model might be off, the tech might be off, whatever. They're all getting funded, so everybody's out hiring. And for the good companies, it's very difficult to find talent. There's just so much money washing around that a lot of people just can't really differentiate. People on the team can't differentiate a good startup from a bad startup. So it's a lot more competitive. And then I'd say the third thing is when you have a downturn or when you have a major change in the market, that creates opportunity. You can take advantage of this change. Big, large multinationals and corporates and big family-run conglomerates, they generally are slow. Startups can be a lot faster, a lot more nimble. And so when we're working with our startups through the beginning of the pandemic, we repositioned them very, very, very quickly, not just to protect themselves from the impact of the pandemic, but actually turn it into an advantage and take advantage of what was going on, such that most of our Indian portfolio has already exceeded their pre-COVID revenue highs.
Right. And also, are you seeing an uptick in certain types of deal activities or certain specific sectors like tech enabled or, especially given today's times? So are you focusing now on certain sectors more than the others?
Yeah, so my investments in India are India for India, not like India to sell software to America or the traditional way. So we're SOSV. I run China Accelerator and Mox. China Accelerator is a global accelerator helping global companies, startups penetrate China. So we're not a China fund. We're actually a US fund. We have zero China money. We're helping global entrepreneurs enter China, penetrate China. It's not the easiest market in the world. And then for Mox, our mobile accelerator, we're helping companies from around the world enter into India, Southeast Asia, South Asia, and then all of our portfolio go cross-border within Asia. And so what we're focused on the China Accelerator side is regional enterprise. We're mostly selling to multinationals in Asia. SaaS is less of a thing. In the US, people pay for software. In Asia, people don't really pay for software. So a lot of times we're giving that software away for free and then making money on it in other ways. And what our superpower is that we've been investing in China internet since 2004. Okay, so we've seen basically 16 years of battles, right? And our role and our goal is to teach the methodologies, the techniques, the business models that we've learned from the battles in the China market to our portfolio companies outside of China. So think about it like startups, and what's been happening in India is basically Chinese big internet companies coming in. You got Google, Facebook, and Apple. Well, not so much Apple, but Amazon on the one side, and then you've got a lot of very large Indian startups with Chinese tech and Chinese money backing them, and it's it's been a bit of a battle. Now a lot of those the Chinese companies actually got kicked out recently, but you still have these leading Indian internet players that are backed by Chinese capital, Chinese tech. And they have, some tools that local entrepreneurs might not have. So our role coming in from the bottom is to bring small capital, but mostly no one works with us for the money. They're working with us so that we can bring the methodologies. We call it cross-border innovation arbitrage. We're bringing innovation from around the world into India to enable the Indian entrepreneurs to solve for those local problems, take advantage of those local opportunities, but not get blindsided by techniques used by some of the global or Chinese internet leaders that are very difficult to compete against. So what's big? Well, on the one side, there's media. Okay, people want to watch Indian content for Indians, or vernacular content for wherever you happen to be from. So media is very sticky. Now the problem is that media doesn't make any money. So what makes money? On the other side, it's e-commerce, education, financial services, and sometimes healthcare, and I'm missing one. Games. Yeah, games. So far, we're working on games. Makes money everywhere in the world except for India. So we're working on that one. So those are the things that make money on the one side, and then the things that are sticky like media, social, on the other side. And then the last part, we are investing a lot in digitizing mom and pop shops, local supermarkets, small stores, giving them the tech tools to fight back against big internet, giving them the tools to fight back against the Paytm malls of the world and stay competitive. And they're also, through those mom and pop shops, we don't charge for the software, it's free. But through them, we can build a distribution channel for our digital as well as our physical products from our what we call the MOX ecosystem, the mobile accelerator ecosystem. So we're very much focused on consumer internet. The 40 investments that we've done are almost all consumer internet investments, and so far so good. We go in very early. We are all about first get traction. And this is a lesson for anybody doing a startup. It's a lot easier to raise capital when you have traction than when you don't. So we're all about traction first and then fundraising later, as opposed to the traditional Silicon Valley model of fundraise first, then traction later.
Right. And also, William, a commonly spoken about fact is, so VCs, of course, are very infamous for being these sharks, right? But in this sea of sharks, you come across as a very pleasant, where we hear portfolios talking about you as a friend, a mentor, and as one of the few investors who actually truly and sincerely works day and night to help your portfolio companies and kind of provide the right kind of feedback, fair criticism. So what's the secret ingredient of being a founder-friendly investor?
I think probably the first thing is that it's very difficult to help startups start up if they've never done it before themselves. So I did 2 startups. My first was an unmitigated disaster. It was a horrible, horrible outcome. The smartest thing I ever did was to shut the thing down after a year. And then the second one was much better because I was not the CEO. Turns out I'm a pretty crappy CEO. And so my co-founder, she was a CEO. She ran things, and I did what I'm good at, which was like selling, bringing in clients, and strategy to some extent, building out the model. So I'm not technical, and I'm not very good at execution. I'm more on the sales side and on the strategy partnership side. So yeah, it was an extremely painful experience, and so because I was a crappy CEO, I decided I should probably stick with VC. I'm a much better VC. So going through it, feeling that pain, having to fire your team, every single one of the general partners in fund has had to fire their entire team at one point or another. It's a horrible experience, but if you haven't done it, it's hard to understand what your entrepreneurs are going through. The second thing is we try really, really hard not to tell the companies what to do. It's actually quite for entrepreneurs. There's always questions. There's always people asking, should we do this? Should we do that? Well, the answer is really easy. You just experiment. You try it out. You get data, and the data will tell you what to do. So designing experiments is something that we're really, good at helping the companies with. A lot of the time, focus on making decisions not based on gut instinct, but making decisions based on real data that is driven from experiments. So if you read Lean Startup, I sponsored and brought Lean Startup Machine to Asia. It was like almost 10 years ago. And it's a process. For the most part, what we're doing with our entrepreneurs is running a process. Now, above and beyond that, we provide something that's quite useful, which is free user acquisition. So we give free advertising to the companies that we work with. So that allows them to scale from the hundreds of thousands of users that they have, hopefully to tens of millions later. We can get into that if you want. But the first thing is, having felt the pain before, more empathy, perhaps. And then the second thing is we're really not telling people what to do. We're more about giving people the tools and making decisions that are being made with data. This is especially important. People start going cross-border out.
Right. And in fact, what we've heard, William, is that you work with your portfolios to bring down their customer acquisition costs in order to increase their revenues, and you kind of help them through the entire journey. And it's not just about the investment, it's the entire hand holding which you do. There is a whole training process as well.
Yeah, I mean, we try and give the entrepreneurs the tools that they are missing to get to where they want to go, and then in the process, we try and accelerate things. It's our approach again is not driven based on money; it's driven based on help. And no one. I mean, we write really small checks, so and we do take a fair amount of equity. But the key thing is that we work pretty hard. So VC can be a very, very nice lifestyle. I think the last time I took a day off was like Christmas, December, and I haven't seen my family since mid-January because I'm in Shanghai and they're in the U.S. hiding from COVID in Florida of all places. So yeah, that wasn't the best move, but. No, it's probably the most labor-intensive way of investing because we live with the companies that we invest in. They're usually in our offices, but even when we're doing things, online. I spent this afternoon going over demo day pitches where they're pitching, partners at leading VCs like SIG, the Southeast Asia India partner for SIG. SIG is a company that was the first check into ByteDance. So we're 60 days into China Accelerator, and it's a small batch. We have 4 Indian companies in the batch. Mostly it's a B2B, and they're out there getting feedback on their pitches from the India Southeast Asia partner for SIG as well as Vickers Ventures, which is one of the most successful VCs in the world, and the vice chairman and managing general partner for Vickers. And so they're doing a lot of the tough love and the feedback. And the funniest feedback is like, I don't understand what you do, which is our favorite one because it's really hard to invest in something, especially when you're doing everything over the internet, if you can't even understand what it is that the problem that the entrepreneur is solving, how they solve it, and why they're the best team to solve that particular challenge or go after that particular opportunity. So a lot of the stuff we do is quite basic.
Right. And William, tell us a little bit more about your accelerator programs, which are specific for India, and how can an Indian startup apply for it, and what all can they expect out of it if selected?
Okay, so we run accelerator programs, but we keep on iterating. We keep on trying to innovate. So our programs don't really work like traditional programs anymore. The first thing is we're global. I invest in companies all around the world. Most VCs are not like that. Like if you look at Sequoia India, they only invest in India and Southeast Asia. They have nothing to do with Sequoia China. They have nothing to do with Sequoia US. Completely independent, separate fund. For us, we're global. We're getting the best of the best from around the world. We're not geographically focused. I mean, we are in that we invest in companies from around the world, help them to go to Asia, sell in Asia, and companies within Asia go cross-border within Asia, including South Asia. So we're helping Indian companies sell in India as well as expand to other markets within Asia. And so the companies that we work with, they generally already have product, they have users, they have customers, they already have revenue. And what we're helping them do is scale up in their home country and then go cross-border. So for our enterprise side, it's 6 months. China Accelerator, we do run in batches still. So it's 6 months of intense help, plus we continue to help after that. So we invest. We work with weekly board meetings and weekly growth hacking meetings for 6 months, and then we invest again, and then we continue to support with biweekly or monthly meetings. And so we're not an EMBA. We don't have courses. What we do is we have workshops, and we also are supporting about 430 mentors or entrepreneurs who have failed at many things and succeeded at least at one thing, who help out with specific challenges that our companies have. So we have companies that are coming in, maybe 1 in 10 have zero revenue or a few $1,000s. Most of our companies are doing 10 to 20K US monthly net revenue. And then some are doing as much as 80 to 100,000 monthly net revenue US dollars. And then we're helping them, scale up and solve that problem. You can apply online for a consumer. It's mobileonlyx.com. I can put that into the chat here. And then for enterprise, it's regional enterprise, including B2B in India, as well as China market entry. That's China Accelerator. We have B2B and B2C. Mox is B2C and China Accelerator is B2B. But when you come in, if you're doing both, if you can benefit from both programs, you actually can benefit from both. So we have companies they're doing China market entry through China Accelerator, but they're also taking advantage of Mox to enter Indonesia market and India market eventually. The other thing is, if you can find people that we've invested with before, or find mentors that you might know, it's always good to come in through somebody that we know, because that helps as a filter. A lot of the companies that we invest in come through recommendations or through our partner accelerators. We're partnered with 120 other accelerators around the world. They're a filter for us because we're later stage than the typical accelerator that you might see.
Right. I'll take a pause here because I see a lot of interesting questions which I would like for participants to interact with you. Rashmi, you want to unmute yourself and ask the question?
Thanks, Archana.
You're welcome.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay. Hi, William. Thank you so much. I'll keep my questions short. Very frankly, I'm a startup, and the idea that we have kind of straddles multiple industries. We're thinking of, so we're launching later this month and hoping to, put together a pitch deck and go to VCs. The question that I have is that, so what is the best approach to take? Is it a good idea to focus on one industry, build revenue there, move to the next one? And so do I show that? I mean, when I'm putting the deck together, so it's kind of, if I was doing it on my own without a VC, I'd probably do one and then and only then go to the next one. But I'm not sure whether I should show the scale at this stage or not.
Okay, I just realized that I've been butchering Archana's name. Sorry about that. How do you say your name again? It's not Archana?
Archana, right.
Okay, sorry about that. Anyway, so Rashmi, thanks for the question. Yeah, I think your instinct is correct. I mean, try thinking about walking and chewing gum at the same time. Well, it's hard enough to do one thing that's never been done before. You know, it's trying to do two things that have never been done before in parallel is very, very, very difficult. Okay, so now which industry you should go after? Well, that's down to experimentation. I don't know. You probably don't know. So you go out to the market, you do interviews, you talk to people, and this can take you a few days, right? You talk to people, you put together, basically a fake sales sort of document, or offer people the service that you want to see, and see if they pay for it. If people are willing to pay for the service, then you build it. Don't do it the other way around. So it's not fake your business until you make it. It's give people a fake product, and if they want to buy it, then you build it, right? So a lot of people do things backwards. Like the traditional way is you do research, and you build something, then you bring it to the market, and then the market says, screw you, I don't want this.
Sorry, William. I'm going to interrupt you because I'm with you on that one. In fact, we've done a proof of concept. My question was more about when I go to the VC, do I talk about all these industries, or do I talk about only one right now? Because obviously it'll be a stepwise approach, but do I show the big picture, or do I stick to one? I just don't want to be seen as someone who is not very clear about what they want, because I am 100% sure of the roadmap. So do we show it stage wise all at once or not?
Yeah, I mean, well, if you've got data, it's okay to be 100% sure of the roadmap. I'm never 100% sure of anybody's roadmap. But yeah, you always want to show what you've already achieved.
Okay.
If you show people a whole bunch of different things, they'll be like, wow, great, that's an awesome idea. I will wait to invest in you until you have achieved them all. Okay. So you're basically giving people an excuse not to give you money. So say, hey, listen, I've done this. I'm solving this problem. I already have traction. I am growing. I don't need your money. But if you give me money, I can grow a little bit faster than I was originally expecting. Now, if they ask you, so where else are you going to go? You can say, well, this is the first industry that we're focused on, or the first, but there are opportunities that we've explored. Here's some data on some other ones, but we really want to be focused right now.
Fair. I think that's perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
No problem. A lot of entrepreneurs, VCs look at them as they're like squirrels. They get distracted all the time, or they have shiny object syndrome, where they're looking at all the shiny new thing and not executing on the boring old thing. So having a focus is something that most VCs look for.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Yep.
Okay. The next question we have is from Aniket. Aniket, would you like to unmute yourself and ask the question?
Sure. Thank you, Archana. Hi, William. My question is, I try to be as concise as possible. How important is, or how vital is the equation of an investor and an entrepreneur in scaling up?
Sorry, how important is the entrepreneur and
equation? Yes, both the equation that they share while scaling up. For example, one thing you mentioned was you given less money against more equity, but you given it's like an environment that you create for growing. So what such things do you look in an entrepreneur as against one thing you mentioned, you look out for the problems that entrepreneur is solving? What are the other things you would look at entrepreneurs individual? How the equation, how do you keep it on the priority with the entrepreneur, your equation? How does that matter in terms of scaling up?
Yeah, so we usually don't invest in companies where we can't help them. Our program is expensive. We take, just for the accelerator part, we take 4 to 6% of the company. And so if we can't really help the company, we don't want the company to waste their equity on us. So we generally don't invest in companies where we cannot help them. For example, I don't know. We don't do a lot of, I mean, we're the #1 most active investor in agriculture tech and food tech in the world. But for the most part, I'm not investing in too many solutions in this area because only certain parts of that market I would be able to help them sell, right? So if we can't help them, then we generally don't invest. But what else? I mean, we generally don't invest in companies that don't have at least an early product market fit. So we're a scale-up sales, business development, revenue generation accelerator. That's what we specialize in, helping in. So if you don't have a product that people want to spend money for, or that, you know, if you don't have a service that people love using, then it's hard for us to help you. So you should work on that first, get something that solves people's problems, and then once you have that, then come to us. We invested in this company finally this year called Touch, TOCH. And these guys are what we call cockroaches. They're persistent. They never gave up. You know, they're chasing us all around India, Shanghai, like a year and a half. The challenge is that they had amazing technology and the team was good. The team is good, but they weren't solving a problem with their technology. It just really wasn't there. So we kept on telling them to go away, and they were very persistent, and they kept on coming back. And then finally they came back. They were beginning of this year, and we're like, hey, we have something. We're solving a problem finally that, you know, and they were super excited about it. I'm like, oh, what's the problem that you're solving? Well, there's a lot of people in India until recently who are spending a huge amount of time on TikTok. 200 million Indians, and our company Caligata, on that was their analysis was on average, Indians active on TikTok were spending 57 minutes a day on the platform. Now the problem with this is that how do you make sure that there's people not showing nudity, or, you know, saying bad things about different religions, or, you know, beating each other up on there, you know, inappropriate content. So they went to an Indian outsourcing firm who hired 4,000 people to manually watch all that content and basically filter and sort through it. They spent something like $1 million a month on that. Now the funny thing is that outsourcing, you know, body shop, I don't know what you guys call them, but basically outsourcing firm turned around and fired the 4,000 people watching the video, and then paid our company a small amount of money to automatically use their AI machine vision to solve this problem. Okay. And so, yeah, that sounds great. Okay, we're invest. We'll help you sell. So they've sold a lot of the Indian leaders, you know, like Disney and Fox and Netflix India. And if you watch cricket, I don't know if you guys are into cricket, but IPL, all the highlight reels are automatically created by this company. And you know, their first customer was in like January, February, March this year. It just, you know, just took off. And we're going to help them sell outside of India. So hopefully that gives you an example of where you kind of want to be. For us, there's no point in coming into our program if you don't have anything to sell.
Right, that fairly answers like a very. Thank you.
Okay, cool.
William, entrepreneurs often ask us this. They want to know the most important walkaway situations for an investor from a deal. So what would that be, and how would you advise the founder to handle the same?
Yeah, I mean, so it's tough. I mean, we have a situation where one of our entrepreneurs, she's a CEO, and she's working with, you know, an angel group, and the angel group put in really bad terms. You know, we're the most active VC in the world now, not just the most active seed, but active VC in the world right now, and we've never seen terms this bad. Now I know where they're coming from, because, you know, in China in the old days, you know, oftentimes the entrepreneur would take the money and run away. So you put some really bad terms in, and it's not like India's got the worst terms in the world. It's just that these terms are left over from the olden days, and at this point, most of the entrepreneurs, I mean, are not stealing the money and running away anymore. So these terms are left over. But So the challenge here, though, is that the investors were there, and they're the ones that were willing to back the company. And okay, that's fine. And what the other thing is, what we found out is generally in the market, the terms usually go away. The nasty, really horrible terms go away in the next round. They're usually removed by the next VC. Okay, so I think we're fine with them. The challenge here is that, and this analogy may or may not work in India. Okay, but it is a lot easier if you're American, okay, to get rid of your husband or your wife than it is to get rid of your VC. Now, and if you're in America, you just sign a piece of paper, cut the assets in half, give or take, and it's done. Again, this is probably not really potentially like culturally the way things are done in India, but like with VCs, you actually have to convince someone to come in and put money into the company that the company won't get, but that the VC will get. So you need to find somebody to buy the VC out. Think about the amount of time that Americans spend trying to figure out who they're going to marry. Well, they should spend even more time trying to figure out whether this is somebody that they should take money from, because it is pretty hard to get rid of them. Now, the weird thing about India is that most investors in India do not understand venture capital math. They don't understand angel math. They basically do quick flips. Angels will come in, and then the next round they'll sell. I mean, if anybody ever bothers to do the simple math, they would understand that this is the stupidest thing they could possibly be doing, which is selling their winners in the next round. But that's what they do here. So for India, it might be easier to get rid of your angels or an asshole investor because they seem to sell out within 1 or 2 rounds anyway, because they probably just haven't done the math. And they want to get like 3x or 5x, and not like for BitMEX where we're sitting on 1,400x. I don't know, Oyo or Oya or a lot of these guys, the angels who were in there early would have been like multi millionaires now if they didn't sell their stock after just 1 round. Yeah, hopefully that helps.
Absolutely. In fact, I agree with you. In fact, when we advise our clients, there's so many times when we have certain investors who come with very, very impractical and unnecessary asks. In an equity deal, they will be looking at redemptions. You're talking about personal liabilities to an extent where you want to run after the founder's personal assets. So, and investors, some of them come with that mindset that my way or the highway. And sometimes poor entrepreneurs get very crushed in all this. And that's when we as lawyers have to make this list of must-haves versus good-to-haves for them. So I think this is a typical challenge, and that's why when I say when we talk about SOSV, y'all are very friendly and very fair to founders. In fact, I have dealt with you personally. I've seen that you look after the interest of the founder and only things which really matter, which are sacrosanct. For of course, like an exit is something which really matters to any investor. But I think your outlook is slightly different in that sense.
Well, I mean, early stage investing, it's either a 0 or a 1, right? So you're either going to make a lot of money, or it's like, who cares? You might make 2 or 3x, but that doesn't really move the dial for anybody. So what's the point in being an asshole about a 0, right? You want to focus on the 1. And then, the most amazing thing is that in BC, and this is kind of unique to us. I've never heard of this before, but we have had, I've invested in about 260 companies. And then we have this weird thing that we call a phoenix, where we'll have founders whose companies die. We invest and then the companies die. And then, because founders don't really give up, right? I mean, the startup dies and just do another one, sort of calling it cockroaches. I mean, sometimes it's a good idea to shut a company down, but oftentimes they're a sucker for punishment and they come back. And so far, 7 times, these founders or one of the founders in the next company will give us free equity in that next company just to have us around and have us be involved. So a phoenix is a bird, and then it basically burns up and turns to ash, and then it rises from the ashes. It's much better to have a bunch of people out there giving you free equity and referring their entrepreneur friends that are doing something interesting than to be on what we call our blackball list. So we have actually a list of people who are jerks. And it's not public because that would probably get us in trouble. But we have a list of pretty much everybody we've ever encountered who's an asshole.
Absolutely. And how important is India for SOSV as a market?
Oh, well, we're a little weird because it's all one fund, and SOSV, 715 million under management now. So we invest very deep by verticals. Okay, so I run internet software, and then we have hardware, food tech and agriculture tech, and then biotech. So we're not focused by geography, we're focused by industry. We go very deep by industry. So the verticals that, for internet and software, it's about a third of my investments right now. So I do about 40 to 45 investments a year, and I'm making about 15 investments a year in India. So yeah, it's very, very important to me. Now, hardware, they're doing about 40, 50 investments a year, and maybe 2 or 3 per year are in India. So it's about 5 or 6% for them. And then food tech and ag tech, not so much because, FoodX is in New York City. It's pretty far to go. Most of the Indian food tech and ag tech companies are probably focused more on Asia than a US problem. And then for biotech, I have no idea what the biotech scene is like in India. And our biotech guys usually pull PhDs from leading universities, and I'm not sure that they've had time or the opportunity to build links with the leading universities in India around synthetic biology and cellular agriculture, where in each of these areas we're the leading investor in the world. But for hardware, we're the most active investor in the world. IoT, robotics, we're the most active investor in the world. There are a bunch of companies in India that are joining our HAX platform. Yeah.
Right. And how is 2021 looking to you?
Shit, I'm just trying to get through 2020. I mean, I've never seen growth this fast in my entire life. We had one company that did event tickets for live events in China, and they took a hit, but they're back again, and we had to bail them out. But the other 140 active companies in my portfolio, everybody's seeing massive, massive growth. I invest in consumer internet, and we're probably one of the only ones that are active in consumer internet because Google, Facebook, and Amazon and 5 Chinese guys made the unit economics of consumer internet shit. The lifetime value is here, the customer acquisition cost is up here. Most VCs can do math. They're not going to invest in a company that spends $1 to make 50 cents. So without mocks, none of these companies will work. So we end up investing in companies that most investors see going nowhere. But we come in with free user acquisition. Once your marketing is free, then you start growing, you go profitable, and then you fundraise. And so it might look a little weird from the outside, but you have these companies growing, they're profitable, they're going through the roof, and nobody can figure out why, because they never raised any money. The reason why is they're getting free user acquisition. So that's our unfair advantage if you think about it in terms of startup. Whenever you're trying to solve for a problem, or you need to have an unfair advantage. You need to have something that no one else has that you can use to beat the competition. So as an early stage investor, our unfair advantage is that we can help with sales, especially for consumer internet. It's been amazing. So COVID is horrible, but it's been a huge growth driver. And then because of the political stuff, all of our competition disappeared from the market. So, when 200 million people stopped watching 57 minutes of TikTok a day, and within a week and a half, our numbers were down. They were down to like 4 minutes and 20 seconds a day or something like that. you think that all these people who are stuck in their houses are going to go start reading books or something? Actually, they are reading books. We invested in a book company, but you know, they're still watching video. They're just watching it somewhere else. They're watching it in our companies like Flickstream, or now that the cricket's back on, they're like glued to their cricket, and they're Touch, the company I mentioned earlier. They're you know, they're like putting these things in a Flix tree, just putting them in the chat. Yeah, they're like consuming media and buying a lot of crap online. So we're mostly in a mode of trying to manage the growth. I mean, there's two horrible problems that entrepreneurs have: too little growth and too much growth. I think the entrepreneurs would always rather have too much growth, but I mean, we have companies where, you know, they scaled up to over 20 people, which might not seem like a lot in India, but for our startups, you know, they run pretty lean, and a third of the company has COVID. And then it's not like a third like at once, it's 20% of the company has COVID. And as soon as somebody gets better, then another one gets it. And it's kind of marching its way through the company. And this company is doing 3-4x, you know, they're doing 30, 40, 50% month-on-month growth 6 months in a row, while a third of the, you know, 20% of the company is sick at any one time. And they're not in the office, you know, they're all working remotely. It's been an extreme challenge. So it's not like I'm really waiting for 2021 to come, because, you know, probably not going to end. You know, what are we looking forward to? I'd say, you know, I think testing, COVID testing would be nice. Rapid COVID testing, because, you know, I think getting a vaccine is not going to do much for help, but rapid testing would be nice. What else are we looking for? I don't know. I think we've seen probably a 3, 4, 5-year acceleration in adoption of digital among consumers in India and South Asia and other markets. You know, the payment platform that Alibaba backed, I think in Pakistan, they had 2 million users coming into this shit. And now they have 20 million users with a customer acquisition cost of 0. Because people don't want to touch each other. You know, money, nobody wants to touch cash anymore because it's got germs on it. Yeah, it's like rock and roll. It's a really good time to start up. It's a really difficult time to start up, but on the other side, it's a really good time to start up.
I think I should open it up for Q&A. I would request participants to either unmute and ask, or you can also put in your questions on the chat box.
Yep.
I think, Archana, we have taken all the questions which have come up in the chat box. And
Before we want to ask William one piece of advice for entrepreneurs. Can you hear me? Yeah.
Sorry, what was the question?
I said one piece of advice for entrepreneurs, if you can give before we close the session.
Oh, okay. Well, I think the challenge is, I mean, the challenges of doing a startup are many. I think you can read all about them. The one thing that people sometimes don't talk that much about is, you know, it's important to, you know, through groups like Flow and through programs like ours, to do it together. I mean, COVID makes it a little even tougher because everybody's, you know, in their apartments, or they're working remotely, or if they're in the office, they're not all in the office at the same time. Or at some point in India, most of our guys and girls are just saying, screw it, and they just all go to the office, and the bigger they get sick anyway. Doing it by yourself it makes it harder. So if you can do it inside of a community, or you can do it with a close group of friends, or, you know, search Entrepreneurs Organization, EO, Entrepreneurs Organization, or any sort of like, you know, I would say support group, or a group of people going through, you know, not doing the exact same thing you are, but going through very similar painful process of starting up. I mean, the bottom line is you're all crazy, right? No normal, sane person would ever purposely go do something that no one has ever done before, repeatedly fail at it, use up all their savings, take up no salary, right? And then fail over and over and over, but then keep on banging their head against the wall. Okay. Because the only way to succeed in startup is to like not give up, right? So that's not normal. The reason why, one of the reasons why we live with our companies is, we try and separate the crazy ones from the batshit insane ones, and we give more money to the crazy ones. But there's some real, there's some crazy, really, really nutty people out there that we need to filter through. But yeah, so it's not normal. So when you're going through this, your friends, your family, like all the like the other people around you, they probably don't have a lot of context to understand what you're doing, why you're doing it, or like or how to help. And they'll probably think that you're crazy, just like they thought, Deep from Make My Trip and Sanjeev and the guys in the first generation when they were coming up, what they went through. You're going to catch a lot of crap. So yeah, become part of a community. Be part of a community. 5, 10 people is a good number. We usually do like 8 to 12 startups per batch, something like that. And if you're doing it together and you're getting together and you're sharing together, you don't have to go through our program to do that. You can do that on your own. It'll make it a lot easier. It'll make it tougher. We've had 3 of our entrepreneurs commit suicide. And we've invested over 1,000 companies as like 3,000 founders. Now the screwed up thing is that 3 suicides out of that many founders were actually significantly under market average for suicides. And one of the reasons for that is we do give support, but the fact that you have a market average of higher than like 5 or 6 suicides per 2,500, 3,000 founders is crazy. So it's not just help with your business; it's also help with your mental state of mind. So if you're not getting that from your co-founders, or even if you have it from your co-founders, you should probably look outside as well. Hopefully that helps.
Absolutely. I think, William, if you have 2-3 minutes more, Upasana, if we have time, there are 1 or 2 more questions. Can we take those up, or William, do you
Sure.
have a hard?
Happy to. No, I'm fine. My next meeting is not for an hour and a half.
Okay. So Upasana, if you're okay, we'll take those up.
Sure.
Okay. So Dakshish, do you want to unmute yourself and ask the question, please? Dakshish and Prince.
Yeah, sure. So, Dakshish here. My question was that what if your startup has 2 sides, one user side and a customer side that generates revenue? What would investors prefer you focus on more? The way you have acquired users, their growth and everything related to them, or how does your customers generate revenue for you and everything on that side?
Is it like a double-sided marketplace where you're sort of in the middle and you've got, I don't know, sellers on one side and buyers on the other side, or something like that?
So my customers, I can serve my customers only if I have users. So it's a 2-sided market.
Yep, cool. Pretty simple. Okay. I'm trying to figure out a good analogy for this, but basically you focus on the one that's harder to get. Okay. So now it sounds a little bit like you have a chicken and an egg. So you can't get people to pay you unless you have, users. But in most double-sided marketplaces, there's usually one side that will generally show up if you provide whatever it is you're providing, and the other side that's a little harder to convince. Right now, usually the one that is harder to convince are the ones that are paying. So I don't know your business, but you focus on the ones that are harder to get. Generally, the other side of the double-sided marketplace, they will they'll just come on their own. So, for example, with teachers, usually there's teachers and there's students, and then your platform in the middle, and so usually the teachers will show up, and if you pay them money, they'll show up. The hard part is to get the students or the parents of the students to pay. Most of the people in this case would focus on the parents and the students and getting them on board the platform, and then the teachers kind of come. Okay. Now, if you need, I think you might be a little bit different, where you have people who are willing to pay, which sounds great, but you don't have users on the other side, well, then you just go after the users, and hopefully the people who are, have the money will follow. Hopefully that helps.
Yeah, that helps. Thank you.
And just focus on one side. Usually it's the hard side. As you solve the hard side, usually the easier side will solve itself.
Definitely.
Okay, cool.
Prince, you had a question? Prince Ray?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, please go ahead.
Hello, William, sir. My name is Prince, and I'm a student. But my question is that how do I determine whether I am capable of starting a business?
So whether you're capable of starting a business, well, you just try it. Find out. I mean, it's running. I mean, first of all, a startup is not really a business. Okay, a startup is an idea, ideas are like noses. Everyone has an idea, but what you're trying to do is turn that idea into something that's scalable and repeatable. And when your idea, solves a problem, it's scalable and repeatable, then it becomes a business. So you start off with an idea, then you launch a startup, and when you can, solve somebody's problem in a repeatable way and get paid for it in some way, then it will become a business. Usually the advice I give is go work in somebody else's startup and watch all the mistakes that they make when they're doing it. And that'll help inform you when you do it yourself, because there's nothing like learning from somebody else's screw ups. A lot of these screw ups, it's not the first time they've been, the things that you mess up. It's not the first time that people have done this. Get a job in somebody else's disaster before you start your own. How do you know when you're capable? Well, when you don't give up and you succeed. If you're not capable, it's okay. Don't worry about it. You can work in somebody else's company.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
Thank you, sir.
Great. I think we have one last question. Angelina, you want to unmute yourself and ask the question? Okay.
Yes,
ma'am.
Oh, wait.
Actually, my question is that if like someone who's not from a business background, I mean, someone who's not from business school or something like that, doesn't have much knowledge about business, but wish to do a startup or a business, they have an idea, especially like someone like from engineering background or something like that. They have an idea and they need to bring that to market. And how can they plan accordingly? And how can they bring that to market? Like, what all should they do? How can they gain more knowledge about it?
Yeah, I mean, I get called in to speak to business schools all the time, and I usually tell them at the beginning of the talk that they should quit business school and go out and actually do something. I usually say something very, very rude, but there's a big difference between reading a book about doing something and actually doing it. So there's no substitute for going out and doing it. People who read about business are generally not super qualified to actually do business, which is, most people who study business make pretty crappy entrepreneurs. So I would say having a business background is actually oftentimes a handicap when you're going out, because doing a startup makes no sense in the business world. So what do you need? Well, you need tech. Usually need somebody to help design a product, and then you need somebody to help sell it, right? Those are the three skills. Those are the three buckets. Those are the three pillars of starting up. And nowhere in there is business. Business is something that comes later, and you hire the business idiots to come in after you've made something successful, to come in and kind of run it for you and take care of it for you, while you continue to push the envelope. Sorry if there's a lot of people here who study business. I studied international relations and East Asian history, it doesn't really matter what you study; it matters what you do. So it's all about execution.
Thank you, sir.
I think, William, it was a wonderful session. With this, we'll wrap. This was the last question. And thank you for candid answers. I think all the participants would have a lot to take away from today's session, especially your stories about a lot of startups you've invested in, how your relationship with entrepreneurs. So I think I'm sure I had a lot of takeaways from this session. So thank you so much for your time. And Archana, you were fabulous as always. And I think you asked all the right questions. And I think I had fun in this session. So thank you, both of you.
Thanks. Thanks so much. Thanks.
William, for taking out the time and for giving us such, taking us through all the interesting aspects.
Of course. Thanks. Hopefully I didn't offend anybody. Okay. Have a wonderful day. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Bye now. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.